Welcome to Sports Trebuchet. This is Marty.
This is Kyle.
This is Jeff.
Oh, Jeff is here.
What's a Jeff?
We are Sports Trebuchet. Welcome to the show. Follow us at Sports Trebuchet on Twitter. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have a 5-star review, whatever you write, I will read. And if you want to give me a character to read it in, I'll also read it in character.
If you
Whatever it is.
1-star review, we'll shun you.
We'll just cry in our sleep. This is a special edition because it's the Power Y team. It's going to be a college football centric episode. So if you don't like college football, you should, right? Yeah, your loss. And if you do, welcome. So I'm Marty. That's Kyle. That's Jeff. Jeff is new to the show. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want to drop your Twitter?
I do not.
Oh, smart move, honestly.
You could just not use Twitter like I do.
I'm going to put his Twitter on. Yeah, follow us at Sports Trebuchet, and I'm going to retweet everything he says, no matter what. So you'll get to it. Jeff, tell us about your love for college football.
Well, my love for college football started when this shitty little team from North Carolina came up to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and beat.
Oh no!
That's when it started.
Is that really what?
My favorite team, my burgeoning team that I enjoyed. So that's why I came to this state.
Had you heard of Appalachian State before that win?
No, nobody did. No one knew where it was.
I mean, you're right. I had definitely.
People were like, "Where's Appalachian State?"
Yeah, is it like after the mountains?
So that's why you have an Armani Edwards tattoo on your back?
I swear to God, I thought he was going to do big things in the NFL because of that game. I was like, he's a chosen one. And Armani Edwards is the coolest fucking name, man. It was so cool. At least he didn't lose to like a Chad Smith or some boring quarterback name.
He was such a shitty just slot receiver for the Panthers.
Yeah, which was really a disappointment for everybody.
Just run the Wildcat, because that was like when the Wildcat was in vogue.
Yeah, and if they had kept Matt Jones around, then you could have had two quarterbacks as receivers.
But Matt Jones would have been coked out the entire time.
That's true. Which is what Appalachia is known for, actually, is their drugs. So it's probably so let's get to the nitty-gritty, which I don't know what that means. We're probably going to do this again, depending on how bad Jeff sucks or not. But really, we're in the off-season in college football, so it's kind of a weird thing. So we wanted to talk about, it's kind of a perfect stopping point because it's the NFL Combine just wrapped up.
Yep.
So no one's been drafted yet. We're not going to really talk the draft on this.
Or have they?
Kyler
We're not Kyler Murray's drafted. He's already wearing Cardinals red. The recruiting season's over. I think almost all the coach hirings have gone on, minus assistants, which is fine. Yep. And we're going to kind of talk all of it and kind of go shotgun blast and see what we can pick up.
Best assistant's already been picked, and that's Greg Robinson. So
where did Greg Robinson end up?
He's in UNC.
Oh no, that's right with Matt. So you know what? Let's start, since I have this nifty spreadsheet up that no one can see that's listening.
Visual medium.
New coaches, new head coaches specifically. We're not going to talk about Greg Robinson, but who? Maybe, so I had them marked down for the largest improvement in their first year from who they're, I guess, replacing. But we can kind of talk too, like, who do you think is a good hire, bad hire, if you want, whatever you'd like. Why don't we start with Jeffrey?
So if you're looking at just biggest difference they're going to make in year one, probably going to go with Scott Satterfield at Louisville, just because they were beyond awful under Bobby Petrino. I mean, my God, they cratered last year.
They worse than cratered.
It's literally like going from the Johnny Depp character in Pirates of the Caribbean as your captain to someone that like actually knows what a ship is, how to handle it. Like, we saw how he handles motorcycles and programs
and prostitutes, but
that pretty well.
Louisville's got plenty of them too.
But yeah, just watching App the last couple of years, I think when you look at like the top 10 winningest programs over the last 5 years, they're like right behind Alabama and Clemson, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And he brought basically his whole staff there, which sometimes turns out well, sometimes it like backfires because you go from small school to large school, but I just think...
And it's also not super far away. Right. Like, it's not like he took a job at Utah.
Right.
Like, you can still recruit
He's still in the same region.
Yeah.
Just filled up the horse and buggy and went across the state line.
Yeah, Oregon Trail. Just and they had. They're also incredibly. God, no one sold you on it. I'm sorry. It's also impressive what he did at Appalachian, considering they, in between all that, made the jump to FBS, and they never really lost. Like I think they had one bad year or one off year. Yeah. They're kind of. I feel like the. What's a good? They're almost like Troy or Louisiana Tech, where they just kept being good for 10 years, and it's just there's not really relative to their conferences and their competition. They're just not taking a step back.
Right.
But I think when you go from 2-10, it's not going to be hard to improve because they still got good players. They just had a shitty coach.
Right. The only problem is I was looking at their schedule. They play Notre Dame and Clemson 2 out of their first 3 games. So the bottom will probably fall out before he starts to build it back up later. I wouldn't be surprised if they start off like 0-4 or something. But
now I really, really want Louisville to just endure like a decade of just mediocrity for my own sanity.
Yeah.
I hate
As a
Louisville.
Syracuse fan.
Yes.
Understandable.
And
But
just
do you hate their
Louisville.
football team as much as you hate their basketball
Yes.
team? I guess that makes sense. Is it because of Brian Brom? Did he fuck your sister?
Oh, not?
Was it Papa John's?
What was the running back for that 2007 Louisville?
Michael Bush.
Yes.
Oh, Michael Bush.
And he broke his leg or something. I'll ask you. I'm gonna do probably.
In 2007, Syracuse beat them, and that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh yeah.
With Andrew Robinson as their quarterback.
Gross.
That's a throw.
Also, this is another.
Carter.
A little aside on this podcast, the first concept of us 3 doing this was to pick like a year and a team and just talk about it. So we may do that because I'd love to like dive deep into the like 2009 East Carolina team and
What you really want
have
to do
4
is
downloads. Just
you just want to watch me have a mental breakdown talking about Tony Fiammetta.
yeah, that's precisely. I think one of the sneaky picks on here for me is Houston went 8-5, right? I think with Holgerson they probably win 11 games because there's not a huge change in concept, and Dana does it like no one else, and that conference is so volatile that it won't be hard for him to do it. I don't think. Without looking at their schedule, I think Houston improves. That's only 3 games, so it sounds kind of like a small step. But they've returned because they were kind of an afterthought this year, especially with Ed Oliver sitting out the last few games.
I was going to ask, what happened with them? The only time I saw them was when they gave up 70 points to Army in their bowl game.
Houston, yeah. So
was that that was the cap on the season?
Well, I think the biggest thing that ended up happening was when Major got there and he brought in Kendall Briles, who is, for all the weird, sticky situations that name comes with, is probably a top 5 offensive coordinator. I think he's incredible. Everything he touches turns to gold.
Or a lawsuit.
Or yeah, or yeah. I'm sorry. Everything that he touches, everything he touches with permission, it turns into gold. When he left and he went to. God, was it FAU after him, right?
Yeah, he went and joined Kiffin.
And they did incredible things with Kiffin, right?
They were 10-2 or something.
Kind of proof of concept. And now he's at Florida State, which I'd like to cover later. But when he left, Major Applewhite is no slob. I just don't know. It's weird because you can't relate the same thing because he wasn't in an offense that can chuck it, but he was coaching an offense that can chuck it, which doesn't mean he doesn't understand the concept, but it's a weird situation. The same way that when Michael Vick was going to be an offense coordinator, and it's like, what the hell is he going to do? Because at Virginia Tech, he had a boring offense. He was just running around like crazy. You can't really coach chaos necessarily. So I think Dana returns that program back where it could be, and every kind of system that was there, whether it was Briles being there, whether it was what's his face at Arizona now, that was at A&M, Kevin Sumlin, Art Briles before him. Again, that system works for that city, period. And they draw fans, and he's got unlimited recruiting in the South, between that and then Louisiana. So I think it's probably the best hire out of all of them, I think, relative to their school. Ooh, maybe not. Best for 1 year at least, in terms of difference. Kyle, while you're texting, do you want to give us...
Not texting.
while you're looking up porn on your phone.
Yes.
Do you want us to... He's looking at Dana Holgerson's shirtless pics.
Chugging Red Bulls.
Yeah, he just wants to see the hair stand up.
Yeah.
Who do you think contributes to just a better record than last season by being a new coach in their situation?
You know what? I'm gonna pick. There's two teams up there that I'm looking at. One, as much as I hate to say it, North Carolina with Mac Brown. They have talent there.
Yeah.
Especially Daz Newsome is an awesome receiver. He lit up Syracuse this year. This kid is fast as hell, and they've got pieces in place that I think that a different system, a different feel. I think that they can gain excitement and have a better year than what they.
And they were not
much to get over.
They weren't healthy, so like you also have that rubber band. I feel like that's going to help snap back. What do you think about?
Oh, we've got a second team.
Second team. Tell us your second team.
The second team is
always double
just
dipping
because.
this guy.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's either going to be awesome or it's going to be a complete shit show, and that's Les Miles at Kansas.
When there's no place to go but up for Kansas, you can't make a wrong hire if it's a big splash like that because you're getting more press than you'll ever get.
I could see them going 6-5 and being that's a huge positive, or I could see them going 1-11.
Yeah, no, I do not. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they just go winless because it's it might be. I don't even know necessarily what David Beattie's system was, except hand it over to the running back.
Yeah.
Who got arrested?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Real
no.
bad.
Real bad.
I don't know if he's back, but yeah. It was
Real bad arrest.
Okay, so
something Les Miles would cover up at OSU. So.
Well, and I'm sure without looking at yeah, it's nothing he's unfamiliar with. And honestly, he coming from Oklahoma State too. It's not like those recruiting grounds are bare for him either. He's got and LSU already. He's got ties, whether it was the program or the coach, but you're still related to it. What do y'all think about Jake Spividal? No, I'm just kidding. It was actually my favorite hire overall was Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And this goes. I worship at the altar of Paul Johnson and the triple option. I love it. I love it. But there's a something that goes with the program when you commit to the triple option at a high tier that's basically saying, hey, we can't hang, so we're going to try to give you a competitive advantage with the system. And that used to be the air raid, and that's now everybody. So you've got you're switching the other side, and it's a triple option. I think they'll be awful next year, purely because you have years and years and years of one system.
You have a bunch of quarterbacks that can't throw.
Right.
They were saying they have 15 running backs on their roster or something.
Well, and you know what's funny is I wonder because Temple was a running team. Like when he came in, he kind of kept it as it is. Your offensive line's there. You're probably going to have to run it. The quarterback's probably going to be the biggest question. But why wouldn't you convert any and all those running backs to receiver, right? Like, I feel like...
Because they probably only have 2 receivers on the team.
Right. And they're also probably huge guys, too. So, the receivers, it's like it wouldn't be tough to just basically run an extremely limited West Coast offense and run and short passes and screens that are going to have where you're basically running the new triple option anyways, right? Where you're tunnel screening, your bubble screening, and everything else, and your quarterback's not having to.
I really wish the triple option would work at a high level.
Me too.
I thought that was the best chance for it to happen, and I would wish it would happen if somebody at a more prestigious school. would get somebody so they could recruit a little bit higher.
More prestigious in athletics too, right? Because like that's what, and it sounds like it's compartmentalizing, but the triple option and in high school, like the wing T, all those different kind of systems typically are run by smaller schools, right? And not all
a quarterback that can't throw.
Right, it definitely.
Small line,
yeah, small line, a combination of all of it.
Yep.
The best team in Texas for a long time in the 2A was Salina. Not the musicians that passed away too soon. But they honestly can't even remember if their offense ran that system, but as it relates to their competition level, they adapted and they picked a system that worked for them, and that system you could plug and play. That was the defense I was telling you about that ran like a 10-1 defense. So they just they press everybody. Yeah, brother. Yeah, like not necessarily blitz, but like they had a man-on-man on everybody, and you had like a single high safety, and like that was it.
Who was coming.
You could have somebody watching a read or watching the quarterback or whatever, and it worked because they're playing other 2A schools. That those high schools had like 250 people total. So.
They most likely didn't have great quarterbacks either.
So what I mean when I go there is those smaller schools potentially don't have necessarily the best education levels, and Georgia Tech is running that system that they could plug into, but they might not qualify with the grades, academically. So if you went
it's a big issue in the ACC because the ACC has a lot of high academic schools.
Yep.
But I guess the counter to that is I'm canceling out my own point because the Ivy League has like incredible offenses for what they are, and I guess it's a pretty high level of what you're having to do. I guess I wonder if Louisville had hired a triple option coach, do they have a better chance of success? I don't know how Louisville is academically. Can you tell me on that, Kyle?
I can't tell you.
You graduated from Louisville, didn't you?
I graduated from Louisville.
Let's switch. If Texas Tech, which I know is not the best academically, if they have that system, they no doubt do better than Georgia Tech, right? Do you think?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time just envisioning the triple option. I think that it works so great on like the lower tier conferences because you're not getting those 4 and 5 star recruits and the better athletes that can cover the triple option.
But don't you think? And you're right because it's the same thing now. Like Northern Illinois was historically bad offensively last year, but their defense was so good it didn't matter. So them just running the ball down your throat worked, which is why Temple hired them because that just works at that level. At Texas Tech, when you're capping at like 8 wins in a really good year, and then because Mike Leach, that he's not walking through the door, that boat's fucking sailed.
Craig James is gonna drag him right back out.
God damn it, man!
To the electrical closet.
We talked about him today. Yeah, and then killed 3 more hookers because that's what he did at SMU. Like a Texas Tech has a really deep talent pool to pull from. So all your leftovers, but you're still in the Big 12, those athletes, I think, could compete, and Big 12 is not running it anywhere else. If everybody's running it, it's no longer effective, right? You're benefiting it because people aren't hitting it all the time. So if Michigan had all their level of Michigan, Ohio State, USC, University of Texas, if they were still able to recruit at that level and run that system, do we think that they run the table? Because you have a combination of those athletes and that system that nobody usually plays or sees?
I don't think so.
You think that system caps a program from ever getting to a level that is...
At this point, I think it does. If the landscape of college football changes, maybe.
In landscape, you meaning... you don't have to get into it in detail, but... Like conference realignment or like...
No.
The way the game's played.
The way the game's played, period.
See, there's run and gun and air raid coaches all over the place now, and it doesn't necessarily mean success because it's so commonly used.
Right. I think that one of the biggest issues that you're going to be facing with a triple option is that look at how the defensive lineman has changed in the last 10, 15 years. They've gotten slimmer, they've gotten faster, they've gotten taller.
What did that Mississippi State guy run at the combine?
Sweat, like a 4.4.
Sweat ran a 4.4. And he's
6'5", 260.
21 of the 23 running backs.
Yeah.
They run.
He ran faster than like Julio Jones did.
He just went up like 15 spots with them.
So you got people like that. Your linebackers are basically converted safeties now.
Yeah.
So you've got these super ultra quick guys on the outside that can run down people.
Which is what killed it in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Miami Hurricanes was the proof of concept that eliminated that shit because their defense was so athletic.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, I don't know if we've gotten out of that.
Well, Wisconsin and Stanford offensively don't do it with flash, not the triple option, but a different game, run, smash mouth football, whatever you want to call it, and it works for them.
To a limited extent. Look at Stanford has now, we talked about that in Stuart Mann's top 25, they've kind of slid back a bit. And Wisconsin, Wisconsin's been good the last couple of years, but like we beat the shit out of them, and like it's because it's a stubbornness too.
Well, but that same system with the right quarterback almost got them to the national championship with Russell Wilson.
True.
So you got,
Russell Wilson can throw the ball.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Michigan in this because this point with pro style and triple option is pretty consistent, because what we've done the last couple of years is they've been able to do.
He's a strength coach. Jeff is so jacked. He's the strength. Yeah, he's the.
But they've been able to run a pro style offense and run over like 8 or 9 teams because they're so much more talented than them.
Right.
But every year, the last couple of years, when they run into Ohio State, who has 5-star defensive linemen, they just booty blast Michigan because they will just put 9 guys in the box and stuff it. So it kind of lends itself to the same. Like if Michigan was running triple option, the same thing would be happening. They'd go 10-1, and then get destroyed.
And I guess if Army it's such a limited sample size. If Army can almost beat Oklahoma, though, to be the exact counter to the high speed and fast offense.
High and fast, bro.
High and fast.
The Kyler Murray story.
Yeah. High and fast. It's the Matt Jones.
Matt Jones story.
I feel like it's a pipe dream. We're going to do a special episode on what will be the best Power 5 team to run a triple option and do entire, break it down, proof of concept, bring examples. We'll have a
story.
It'll be like a science fair. We'll have the board. Yeah, we'll have all the boards.
So once again, visual medium.
I'll put on the Instagram. That's a good conversation that I want to continue, but I know we can talk about it for another 25 minutes.
We got 6 months before fall camp even starts.
Yeah, we've got
plenty of time.
And these episodes
finalized by the end of the spring game.
Yeah, these episodes aren't going to be incredibly current, but I'd like to do it once every month and a half at least, especially going into the season too, if Kyle will allow it. Because Kyle was against Jeff being on this podcast. Some of the interesting ones, and we can get off this. Chris Kleiman to Kansas State is so frustrating because I want to see high-fast. God, I can't fucking say it. High-paced offense at Kansas State so badly just to see something different.
And they're going to run basically the same system.
I know it's going to be exactly
the
same
system.
They got younger Bill Snyder.
They really did. No, it's just like they
more
re-upped.
Success, more championships.
It's actually Bill Snyder with a youth potion and then a full outfit. And they changed his name. It's his clone that they made 40 years ago that now is able to be a head coach. Manny Diaz, just because Miami always intrigues me because I always want them to be good for the good of football, but I don't want them to be too good because
Hurricane fans are insufferable.
Yeah, and it's just it's
NASA.
It probably happens for every generation, but 90s, people that grew up in that 90s generation just have this fun, NASA. It's like Raiders fans, Hurricanes fans.
I can tell you right now, being a Syracuse fan and having to deal with Miami
in the
during those years, man, I hated them.
Did you hate Jimmy Johnson? Or was that's way
that was
your time?
before I could really think.
He was gone before then.
Was it? Do you think there were some Syracuse fans that when Daryl Johnson ended up with the Cowboys under Jimmy Johnson that they were like internally conflicted? Like,
I think it was more the fact that he went to the Cowboys because most fans up there are either Bills or Cowboys or Bills or Giants fans.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a double dip too. And I'm interested to see what I was going to say. You freeze it's a bit. Honestly, Jim McElwain at Central Michigan because. That's a life job if he wants it and he can keep winning.
Love how Charlie Fry is the offensive coordinator.
Dude's still kicking it, man.
Why
It's
is he not an
wild.
athlete?
I didn't even catch that when I made this list, honestly. I was like, okay, yeah,
excellent.
Charlie Fry. Yeah, let's stop. Because I'll keep going on every single coach. That's
There's one I wanted to ask before you close out.
Yes.
So, Ohio State.
Ooh, Ryan Day.
Ryan Day is taking over a loaded team. Now, he does have a new quarterback. The NCAA ruled him eligible, right? Fields is eligible?
Yeah, I think he's
So,
good.
he's got a talented dual threat guy taking over a 13-1 team. What do you guys think?
People think that Justin Fields was ruined by George's use of him. I don't think that's true. Ryan Day is probably going to be an NFL coach at some point because
He's
he's
just fine.
based off everything I've read on what he did for the offense and how he's constructed things. And this is probably stealing like verbatim from whatever it was that I wrote, but he does more. He fits everything. He fits talent, fits the scheme to the talent, which is the best coaches. The best coaches do. Period. A bad coach is someone doing the same thing over and over again, regardless of the talent or ability or the scheme fit. I think he wins a national championship with Ohio State. Not this year.
I think they're going to be just fine.
I think they win in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I think this year they lose to Michigan. Everyone's like, fuck, this Ryan Day guy. Are you kidding me?
People are jumping out of windows.
And then Michigan doesn't win that game again for like 6 more years while Ryan Day's there.
It's been 2 out of 18, so we'll take one at this point.
When y'all lost Appalachian State the same year, did you lose to Ohio State too? That's rough, man. At least I was hoping you'd get at least one thing.
That was they lost to App State, and then they got blasted by Oregon too, because that's Dennis Dixon. You want to talk about a spread and shred team?
Should have been Heisman.
Yeah, he tore his ACL.
That's rough, man. I don't know if Mike Hart ever recovered, honestly, on an emotional level. You know, Kyle played. Was it basketball against Mike Hart?
No, I did not play anything against Mike Hart, but we did watch him play against one of our rivals, IHC, because Mike Hart was in a smaller, lesser.
Oh, he's from New York. That's right.
Yeah, he's from the Oswego area.
Oh, he's such a shitty runner.
Yes. Yeah. And he was in a smaller school, so he's in a lesser division, and they're playing one of our rivals for basketball, IHC, which has like 90 people in the class. So we go up and watch him. I think he had like something stupid, like 10 rushes for 323 yards and 7 touchdowns. He returned like 2 kickoffs for a touchdown. They took him out at like halftime.
They were having him like, all right, if you're at the 2, run. If you're at the 1, take a knee. You can finish it out for us. That's insane. And also insane how much you can dominate one level in high school and then just be like pretty good in college and then never in the... Well, he went to the Colts, didn't he?
Wasn't it the thing that Mike Hart just never fumbled? And then...
He was a
fumbled like the
Heisman
first...
finalist one year too.
Was he really?
He was really good in college.
Damn, why did I guess the last year was such a mess that I didn't consider it because I never saw him before that. It's a tough way to get on the national scene.
He never fumbled either. That was the other thing.
But didn't he fumble like his first year, like for the Colts? It was like his first carry. He fumbled or some shit. It was like wow. He was a regular Amon Green.
Yeah.
So shifting slightly on people moving to different schools, I'm going to pop up something. We can stick with quarterbacks because Jeff kind of started on it with Justin Fields. Yeah. Who stands out, who doesn't on these quarterback moves for you? I know Kelly Bryant was considering Syracuse for a touch, and
I don't think he was even considering. I think he was just putting his name out there.
And Syracuse, anybody was trying to grab him.
Everybody was trying to grab him. People were saying that he would have been a good fit there. I personally didn't want him because we got Tommy DeVito ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't think putting him in as a Band-Aid for a year. I think that stuns Tommy DeVito. I didn't like that fit, so I'm kind of glad he's not going.
He also went to a school that got a bowl ban, right? Didn't Missouri get a bowl ban right after that?
Yeah, they did. They got hammered.
Yeah,
they got hammered by sanctions, and
so he transferred into a place that won't go bowling.
Yeah, it's funny too because that's actually kind of how I feel about the Shane Bichelle move. Like on one hand, I'm super excited about it, but so Ben Hicks, I'm glad to see him go. Love you, guy, but it just didn't work, and he gets to go with old Chad Morris at Arkansas. But they have a young quarterback, and I always forget his name. I just looked it up because it's William Brown, the most boring fucking name. But he's going to be a boomer bust because he is extremely athletic for a pure air raid team, kind of. And I think that, honestly, Sonny Dykes has changed his system enough to adjust for a quarterback being able to run. At least it seemed like it in the time that William played or that Brown played. Now he's going to be a true sophomore, and he gets to sit behind Shane Bichelle. So I don't know. Like it's bittersweet, right? Because it's like you want the rebuild, or the winning season. Yeah. You hate being the 8-8 team in the NFL, and SMU is not far from greatness relative to their conference with the coach they got and the talent pool they've got. But Shane Bichelle maybe gets him there, but doesn't keep him there because he's gone.
Yeah.
And a 3-year starter can get you there.
I'm slightly intrigued by Jalen Hurts to Oklahoma to see what happens.
I think, what's funny? I think it's going to be one of the biggest impacts for the new quarterbacks, and it's going to be a negative impact because I think Lincoln Riley will probably really have a cool offense for him, but it's not going to be the offense before, and that offense was so much fun to watch.
Well, the last 2 years, it's been super fun to watch.
It's been incredible.
Yeah, I think that's what intrigues me is that
how he's
had 2 years of just incredibly fun performances from Oklahoma and their quarterbacks. What's going to happen when we put in another guy who, did he rightfully get ousted from his job in Alabama?
The closer Alabama got to Oklahoma's type of offense, the more Tua was cemented in as a starter. Yep. So for him to leave and then go to a program that's running that same kind of system to either show that he can prove it or stay on that big stage, like I'm happy for him. Mm-hmm. I don't think it benefits Oklahoma, especially when you have a chance to we've had 2 likely number 1 overall pick quarterbacks go back to back. Start with your freshmen, start with your young guys.
I think that's smarter. But
I agree.
I'm intrigued to see what happens.
But the thing, so the kid they brought in, his name's Rattler.
Spencer Rattler.
Number 1 quarterback. The other thing is they brought 3 5-star receivers in. I don't think that's ever. So
Christ.
I know they lose Antonio Brown's younger brother, but
Hollywood
or cousin, nephew, whatever it is. But that Hurts is going to shred still.
Hollywood Brown.
It would be ironic if that Rattler kid came in later in the year and replaced him, though.
Even better. It's when they're in the first round of the playoffs, they're losing, and then Rattler. Oh my God!
Wins the championship.
It'd be a full circle because he got replaced, and then he replaced Tua when Tua got hurt, won the game. Yep. And then everyone's like, what a great story, what a great, rounded out. He goes to another school and it happens all again. But he didn't get a chance.
Alabama. And Nick Saban's calling over to the other sideline, can you bring him back over?
Yeah, he's just please.
I'm kind of intrigued by Austin Kendall to West Virginia, too.
He was the backup at Oklahoma?
Yeah, he's
for 2 years. He's been behind Murray and...
Yeah, the poor guy can't catch a break.
But,
I wonder if he... Well, I think that move, it had to have probably happened after Holgerson left and Neil Brown got there.
Probably.
That's a good hire.
But Neil Brown's going to keep more of the same what West Virginia does, period.
They're pretty similar.
Just from watching the bowl game between Syracuse and West Virginia, because Will Grier didn't play, they had their backup. I forgot what his name was. But
he was bad.
He wasn't.
He was the old Miami transfer.
He was the old Miami transfer. Yeah. And I think that they were looking for a new quarterback.
Yeah.
They didn't have the trust in him. I really like the name of the guy going to Utah, Cameron Rising.
Cameron Rising's a hot name. That's a rapper name.
It's a great name.
I
want him to do good things. Nothing is less sexy than a guy going from BC to Rutgers.
No, you know what's even more unsexy is Josh Jackson sparing it up for Maryland because he was so disappointing at Virginia Tech. And I don't know how long
Syracuse has him second week of the season.
He might do well in Loxley's offense though, because he's more of a if he can tailor it. Because Jackson's more of a runner, and I don't know if Fuente liked that as much.
I don't know if Fuente I had all the confidence in that hire when it happened, and it is
flopped.
it's almost the same way I feel about Florida State with Willie Taggart because it's like, cool, I love this story. They probably got a coach that's going to be a lifer, and then either the job that they replace, Beamer and Jimbo respectively, did such a bad job at filling up those cabinets before they left, or the job's gotten, whatever the reason is, they can't fucking get it. Whether it's luck, whether it's cutting players, whether it's no offensive line. It's a bummer because I want Virginia Tech to be good again too. I want everybody to be good.
You want everyone to go 7-6.
No. I don't want everybody to win. I want everybody to have a chance to win. That's all. Because no one benefits from Texas Tech being awful record-wise the last 3 years has been forgivable because they're at least competitive in most of those games. Yeah. Even when you go back to that Baker Patrick Mahomes, cool, you lose 95-90, but at least you put up 90.
It's fun getting there.
Yeah, and last year when Boston College had a run in them, and then they kind of fell apart. But it's fun watching a team that's
nobody wins when Boston College is good.
That's not
true.
You're
in the top 25 for a while.
Yeah.
AJ Dillon,
he's
former Michigan commit that we let go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not bitter. Rutgers is good.
Rutgers should be shot off the planet. Rutgers.
I'm okay with Rutgers folding as a program, period. Go the way of Idaho and just go down to FBS.
Just keep on reliving those Mike Teal, Ray Rice dreams.
Yeah, dude.
Muhammad Sanu, yeah.
It's so weird, the flash in the pan that they had. Same thing with Kansas, though, right? You're just oh man, he...
the Todd Reesing?
Aqib Talib.
Yeah, he'll shoot himself. Shoot somebody or whatever.
I was going to say, one thing I wanted to get both your thoughts on is it's interesting how some schools are even taking 2. Missouri took 2, and Arkansas brought in 2 freshmen and had a red. So it's I like what Chad Morris is doing because Chad Morris is doing the old meritocracy. Let's just bring as many guys as possible. Yeah, it's risky with one because you're I don't know, but.
That's the way to do it when you have nothing, though, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have anything there.
And he recruited really well last year too.
Yeah, they were
top 20.
They were just bad last year. There was nothing left there for them.
Well, and you got to do something. You got to do something when you're in the SEC West.
In that
period.
school,
you're not on an uphill climb. You're climbing Everest. Period.
Yep.
And that A&M.
You're free climbing Everest.
You're free climbing. You're out there by yourself. No cell phone reception, and you don't have a beanie on. So you're
all you got is a bag of sand that you keep putting your hands in.
That's all you got. Tate Martell doesn't excite me at all.
Because will he be eligible this year?
I don't know if he'll even be eligible, but I don't know anything about him. I feel like I've heard his name for 4 years, and I couldn't tell you what he looked like. I couldn't tell you how tall he is, what type of quarterback he is. No clue. Because
he's a midget.
Is he even? Is he really? Is he short?
He's 5'10". Yeah.
Okay, so
it's real short.
Yeah. It's really,
For a quarterback,
Jeff, please be considerate of his feelings.
I'm 5'10". It's not an insult.
Just came at you, bro.
I do like the idea of a UCLA quarterback going to a Cal team because they're just this offense is way too good. I'm going to go to Cal. I can't handle this. I'm going to go to Cal where I'm going to be awful and throw 7 interceptions in the Cheez-Its Bowl. I just want to go lose the Cheez-Its Bowl.
Is DeAndre Johnson of the
former Houston Texans wide receiver?
No, the Last Chance U DeAndre Johnson. Isn't he the old Florida State quarterback who knocked a woman out at the bar? Is that the same one I'm thinking?
I think it is.
That's interesting that he couldn't make it at FAU.
Well, and he goes to Texas Southern, so he goes to SCS time. That is absolutely.
Is that
Yeah, it's
right?
DeAndre Johnson. God, he's 23 now. And he's going to go to
Been in
Texas
college
Southern.
like 7 years.
So he'll probably
got
crush
8 years of eligibility left.
Dude, I forgot. I wouldn't be. You know what? Look at this, and there's like Ryan Perilou still up here.
Oh, you didn't even look at Brandon Wimbush.
Oh yeah.
Brandon Wimbush.
I think that's probably going to be kind of neat. Josh Heupel was an absolute dickhead in the service industry to bartenders and the like. Our producer Kyle served him directly. I think he stiffed him. And he was in the area for recruiting, and he can go fuck himself. So, like, anytime, I'm so bummed out he got UCF because I wanted them to win another national championship. And that's not happening now with him.
No.
Nick's, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. Let's move on. I'm pulling up this drawing straws now. All right, so I want y'all to choose here. We can either talk recruiting of your respective schools, maybe at large, whatever you want to do. I got a list here of college football's top 10 impact true freshman quarterbacks, which seems excessive, but especially since they probably won't start. I want to Spencer Rattler, so let's not. And then we've got a Twitter question that's 2 parts, and then we've got a giant question that. What do you want to do? What are we thinking? Jeff Byers' choice. You're new.
I think we can tackle recruiting because it's pretty.
That's a short one.
Pretty by the numbers when you look at it.
Quite literally.
There's rankings.
Yeah, it's funny enough you say that because if you'll notice, is this last year's?
No, that's right. That's this year.
Georgia finished number 1 again?
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I think this isn't Rivals either.
This
I think
is
I
the
got
24/7.
Yeah, 24/7.
Composite, yeah.
Texas A&M just can't catch up to Texas. It's like bridesmaid every time. And also, I don't get it. Anybody that visits College Station, I don't know why you stay.
I don't know how Oregon doesn't get the number 1 draft or number 1 recruiting class in the country every year because their facilities are so fucking awesome.
Well, I think they're. I wouldn't doubt it after this season if they do again.
Yeah.
There's. It's obviously been done, so it's not like it's an impossible task, and you have that much money behind it and the facilities. It's as cool as shit, man. I fell in love with Oregon when.
We need another the Garrett Blunt.
That really is what we need. The Garrett Blunt. Was
the
there another
Michael
one?
James.
The Michael James. All of them.
They were.
No. Go ahead.
I was just saying they were the one I really wanted to call out. Like when you look at the top 10, this is like blue blood central. You know, like Georgia, Bama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, even A&M's more of a recent.
Yeah.
You know, Michigan, Florida, Clemson's up there. But Oregon, when I saw that, I remember we were talking about this earlier. It was like, holy shit!
It's wild, and what's
there.
funny is they're only a national championship away from being a blue blood. I think considered someone that should always be there. The same way that people look at Miami now.
In the last 15 years, they've been fairly dominant.
Yes,
Oregon.
agreed. And I don't know if that's, and you know what, we'll probably touch on that in general with another question later.
Yeah.
Maybe why that is. But like seeing Nebraska back up at 16 is wild to me. South Carolina at 17 with fucking Muschamp.
Tennessee at 12 surprises the shit out of me.
It really does me too, actually,
Yeah.
because I still can't name their coach. Can you?
No, and I went there. It's my alma mater. No.
It's a defensive guy that when
eat asparagus. That's all I
He's the
remember.
dude
about
from
him.
Alabama.
Yeah. He coached at the shitty Huntsville school, or not Huntsville school, the MTV reality show.
Yeah, Hoover.
He's from
Florida State and Georgia too, right?
Yeah, he went
been, like,
he went
defensive
Hoover
coordinator.
and then jumped up to Florida State maybe,
Yeah.
and then Georgia,
And then
Bama.
Yeah.
That's wild. Penn State continuing to spare everybody because they'll just never live up to it.
Yeah.
They should hire. You know what they should do? They should probably hire Art Briles.
Well, James Franklin.
Match made in heaven.
James Franklin is.
Jeremy Pruitt.
I don't know if you guys have been able to watch any Penn State games, but James Franklin is literally a potato. Like he makes the worst.
He's a potato.
He makes the worst in-game coaching calls, and when he lost Joe Moorhead to Mississippi State, their offense took a nosedive.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to watch him because he recruits like tons of studs and then can't coach them.
Well, it's like someone buying the best tools, but not like having hands.
He has like one hand. Let's give him some
I want
credit.
you to he has missing his
He's got a
thumb.
Jason Pierre-Paul
He's
hand.
missing his thumb. He's got a Jason Pierre-Paul hand. It's awful.
God.
I just visualized it. It's so gross. God, it's like
That, yeah.
it looks like it's the same thing you kick the football off of for kickoff. It's his hand now.
He just holds
just
it.
gets-
Monkey's paw.
At practice, he's like,
They're like, get out here. Yeah, so I think Oregon's surprising. Florida bouncing back so quickly is not surprising, but
No.
it's also like
That's big.
Mullen having the old Urban ties too. I'm sure helped that. We're just like, hey, remember Tebow?
well, and then they kind of started the season off kind of bad, but then they ended up. I mean, they drubbed us in the bowl game.
Yeah.
They beat the crap out of Michigan, so I think they really ended on a high note, and
Because Michigan won that game a year before that in the same bowl,
they
right?
smoked them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want Washington to stay up there because I want them to be
Yeah.
somebody that can compete with in Oregon, who rightfully should be the best team in that conference.
You know what? The first creative offense they have will allow that to happen. But I feel like they're so boring to watch. Washington is so fucking boring.
Well, Jake Browning seemed like he never got better.
2 years ago, I was like, dude's going to the NFL. This
He
guy's
has not
got
gotten
it. And he
any
just
better
keeps,
in 3
and he kept
years.
getting worse.
Yeah.
And just, like, he would just double down. Like, it's like, oh, cool, he did a spin move and then threw an interception. And then be like, all right, he's going to improve from it. And then, like, fast forward a year later, same situation, and he does a spin move and then, like, a pirouette and then an interception. It's like, oh, he added to the bad.
And they now have who's the old Georgia quarterback they got? Is it Eason?
Jacob
Yeah.
Eason. Yeah, because there was the Jake
Five-star.
Jakes.
Yeah.
They had to get rid of a Jake.
Yeah, there's so many Jakes and
Upgrade.
Justins.
They
upgraded. Let me upgrade. Let me up Jake you. A&M's surprising to me, only because I grew up in Texas and it's just A&M was never their punchline. You'd set your security code on like your gate if you were in a gated community. If you had Aggies living there, it always had to be 1, 2, 3, 4 because they couldn't figure out anything else. Ohio State's down that low, not surprising because they only had 17 signeys.
Yeah.
They had a small class.
That'll change.
Stanford's staying up there, Mississippi State's staying up there,
There's North
Purdue.
Carolina sitting at 31.
Yeah.
Against people.
Yeah.
What's that? I feel like did they recruit really well under Butch Davis when they were like cranking out NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were paying motherfuckers, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the thing.
Just taking their classes.
Yeah, that's
Marvin, the defensive tackle, Marvin Austin.
Yep.
It's weird to see the basketball schools, Kentucky, North Carolina, Michigan State, back to back to back.
Yeah.
And I guess you could
It's
count
weird to see
Baylor.
Kentucky up there that high, but they've played so well.
Stoops and Kentucky is to what Patterson is not Patterson. The Washington coach.
Peterson.
Peterson. God, I kept trying to say
Newcastle.
Patterson. Just, I feel like they're the same. Where like they're not bad, and they're good. Core builders is such a spare ass word. They build the foundation of a team, and they can keep it, and they can keep
Sustain
it.
it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sustain it. Yeah, sustainable is probably the word I was looking for. That I just, I'm not very smart. But I bet you if you took someone that was electric and put them at Kentucky now, within 2 years, they could be really good.
Yeah.
With the core that Stoops built. The same way if
He's built the foundation. Somebody could.
yeah, the same way that if Holgerson
Yeah.
hypothetically had gotten like the Washington job, right? Today, Washington in 2 years is a lot of fun with a really good defense, a really good core,
A great head of
And in
hair.
4 years,
and
they're
a beautiful
terrible.
head of hair. And then you'd have the Apple Cup being Holgerson against Leach, and it would just be
Oh
chaos.
my god!
That's
I
my
want that in
fantasy
my life.
booking. Cal being at 37 is wild. I'd be surprised if there was an offensive player in there at all, just because of how they play. Because I don't think they're allowed to recruit offensive players. Where's Syracuse on? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Wait, hold on. Where was Michigan?
Finished 10.
Oh, is it 10? Am I just missing it? Oh, it's a yellow washing out.
Yeah. They had a really good class.
That's a
But that's kind of where they have been the last couple of years. They're between like 5 and 10.
right. It's a given at this point,
Which
short
is
of
kinda-
having a bad coach.
They they definitely get like the rivals and 24/7 bump they call it. Like they'll get a player, he'll be a 3-star, he'll commit, and he'll be a 4-star.
Yeah,
the next day.
that's
They're
they've
kinda
shown that
getting-
with Texas. Does that happens?
Yeah,
a lot.
they're kind of getting that with a lot of their players.
So at 54, Kyle, being
Yeah.
right above Florida Atlantic and power recruiter Lane Kiffin, which he is.
He is.
That's actually probably.
I don't
really
like the
good
fact that
for
we're
Florida.
below. Right?
I mean, look. It's kind
How
of.
the fuck did that
Look
happen?
at that. You got
They're in
you
the
got
Big Ten.
you got Babers, Kiffin, Heupel, Sumlin,
Norville.
Norville,
Penny Hardaway.
Penny Hardaway.
Who the fuck is Wake Forest coach? Clausen, right?
Is it still Clausen?
Yes.
Yeah, because he can't get another job.
Oh, he's finally stuck.
Someone talked that about Norville too. That like he's been due for a good job for a while because he keeps him up. He makes more money than Babers does at Syracuse. He makes like a fucking shit ton a year.
Really?
Yeah, he makes a ton of money because they know what they've got and they pay their guys.
Babers just got an extension.
Yeah, which is good for him. Still not making as much as the Memphis head coach, but that's okay. Memphis or Syracuse better basketball program, Kyle?
Syracuse or Memphis?
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse historically.
Ooh, so what about? I'm glad you put
You
historical.
know why? Memphis signed the #1 player in the country for next year
Did they really?
because their head coach
Is
is
his
Penny
dad.
Hardaway.
You know what's
Is it his
you know what's
son?
you know
No,
what's
Penny Hardaway's the head coach for Memphis.
But
So
that's
isn't
awesome.
it his son that's the recruit?
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
That's Hadaway.
Yes, what is love?
Perry Hadaway.
Perry Hadaway. It's
Not no relation.
Tommy.
Tommy Two-Tone.
Boise State. Oh no, I'm not even gonna. I think the best part, and it has these rankings, which is I'm gonna go with the rivals. SMU is number 69.
Nice.
Is there anybody on Michigan's recruiting class that you're specifically excited for?
Yeah, so after getting torched by Ohio State's 11 receivers that run 4-3s,
Yeah.
we went out and got the #1 safety in the country, and it sounds like they're actually going to have him play slot corner.
Ooh,
Because
nice.
he's actually Justice Hill's younger brother, if you know Justice Hill from
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. His younger brother.
Yeah, who
Dax.
ran faster than I thought he was going to. I
Yeah,
mentioned that too.
he's like a bigger, faster version of Justice, so.
Is
You
his
really need
name Law and Order?
Law and Order.
Because Justice Hill.
No.
What about Avengers Hill? Because you have the Justice League, and you have the Avengers.
Daxton.
Daxton, really?
Yeah.
That's, man, Avengers would have
Dax.
been a cooler name. Well, Dax Hill's pretty. Dax Hill feels like a battle that was lost that someone down south will be upset about.
Yeah.
Is that your only key standout?
That and so Michigan's best running back, Karan Higdon, is going to get drafted hopefully. Yay! His backup got kicked off the team for academics. His backup is a true freshman, so they brought in a 5-star running back
Nice.
from California who's essentially going to have to play because they don't have any other running backs.
That's going to be awesome.
So
I wonder if that's going to mean y'all are going to be more passing
yeah,
heavy, which
especially
is great.
bringing Gaddis in from Alabama.
Oh, good call. Yeah, that might be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we're probably going to, in our defense lost, I don't know if you guys watched the combine, but multiple really good players.
Yeah.
So it's going to be probably a more fun year next year. Better offense, worse defense.
Do they play Purdue? I can't remember. Is Purdue in the
No.
same division?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
They're fucking Jim Delaney in his goddamn divisions. Like, we don't play Purdue for like 4 years.
It's it's the dumbest shit. It's the same thing with, like, I think A&M and Georgia haven't played since A&M joined the SEC.
Hey, at least they're not named. What was it? Legends and.
Oh, that was worse.
Legends and leaders.
Because they were also like geographically off. Like Michigan was in Legends.
It's
but then there were,
literally
like,
the only
4
thing that
teams on
Maryland
the
and
other
Rutgers
side.
has done good the last like 8 years was
Increase
come
revenue.
in and mess that up. Like, I'm extremely excited. We have a receiver. I think he's going to be a receiver, but he's the only like real 3-star standout we got. Keontae Burns.
SMU.
Yeah, SMU. Sorry. Yeah, that's a good way to. Yeah. Because those are you give a name like Keontae, which is not the wine.
He should start his own wine brand.
Keontae.
His next favorite recruit is Farva Beans.
That's and white fish because it's delicious. He's slotted probably to be a receiver, and he's a big guy. And SMU has been money for receivers lately, so that's probably it. Good to pair with Shane Bichelle. Probably be a slot receiver. He's 6'3".
Is that receiver you guys had that torched Michigan coming back, or is he gone?
I think he's gone.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, which is why he's going to be a receiver, because he's just an athlete, and I think he could have been a safety, but he was 6'3", or maybe not a linebacker, maybe a safety or a receiver, and he wants to be a receiver because he declined offers from like Alabama and another school, a couple of big schools, because they wanted to put him in his natural position, but he wanted to play receiver. So he's going to be like a pure raw athlete that's probably going to be a pain for a year or two, but it'll probably be in the NFL in 4, because that system just feeds receivers like they need it.
Yes. Okay, so Syracuse has actually 4 guys I'm pretty excited about. Don't know if any of them are going to start right off the bat.
How many players?
4.
You just go over the whole recruiting class at this point.
So 2 linebackers, Lee Kapogba and Michael Jones. They both, Kapogba actually was originally scheduled to go to West Virginia and switched to Syracuse. He's a 4-star kid.
Nice.
Michael Jones is being recruited by Georgia, was one of the teams that was going after him, another 4-star kid. I think that they're going to be nice impact players going forward. We did lose a little bit as far as the linebackers, but I don't know if these guys are going to make the immediate impact that you think, like just getting on the field. Got another safety, Cornelius Nunn, who he originally signed with Syracuse, then dropped his commitment, went to Miami. About 2 weeks later, dropped that commitment, went back to Syracuse, and he was a 3-star. He's like a tweener, 3-4 star safety.
Yeah. Last name's Nunn.
Nunn, yeah, and then
That's hot.
And then he can match up with our safety from last year, Andre Sisco, who won the ACC safety, was an all ACC first team safety, and he was a freshman. And then a guy that is coming in next year, or they're coming in this year, he flipped from Maryland at the last second. He's a quarterback named David Summers, and he could be the backup to DeVito now since Chance Amy transferred.
He's got such a bummer of a name though.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's super boring.
That's fine.
Syracuse has boring quarterback names.
Tommy DeVito's a good name.
DeVito's the best one they've had since
McNabb.
Ooh, there was one in between there, wasn't there?
Troy Nunes, come on, man.
Who's that Duke?
Greg
Paulus, who came out of basketball, retired and played.
Heading to the NFL, guys.
Fuck Paulus.
Something you said reminded me of it. There was a Michigan offer on an offensive lineman that went to SMU, right? Was it Ike Danielson?
Yes.
Okay.
Big guy. Tackle?
Yeah, and I remember bringing it up to you thinking like, hey, that's pretty cool that we flipped a guy that had an offer from Michigan, and you said something along the lines of like, yeah, I guess the closer look they got, because Oklahoma had also offered him, and then they didn't pull off their scholarship offer, but they weren't necessarily pushing him anymore.
Yeah. Well, Michigan signed 6 offensive linemen too, and he was on the end. So I think at that point they were like,
yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
We can't take any more at this point.
That's in.
Which sucks for the kid, but.
Or you do, and it ends up being a transfer anyways, or something. Like that's nice of Michigan or any of those teams to really do, because Saban has been known to do the opposite, right? Urban
gray
too.
shirts him.
Yeah, you bring in 50 guys every day.
Yeah. I think he'll be a good player, though. I think he needs to reshape. Like that was the big feedback, was he needs to reshape his body a bit.
That's what. Yeah, he was.
But he was really athletic, really good player.
And he's huge.
Yeah.
320 pounds out of high school.
Yeah.
Which is going to make a difference, definitely in that conference.
Yeah, I don't know if he's, and I don't know if he's going to start right exactly, because I don't know if he's going to start immediately. But when he does start, having that as a tackle to stop the rush when you're so pass heavy, but also be the guy that you're pulling on a run play or a sweep or whatever it might be, and have just basically a train out there blocking is pretty exciting. Shifting to another topic, buying time, because I don't have it pulled up.
Transparency.
Let's start with
we ain't got shit.
Our producer Kyle had 2 questions. Let's start with one. And we'll try to keep it as short as possible, because I could probably talk about it for an hour or two, on why college football needs a video game. Please, God. Kyle and I probably met and bonded over NCAA football 13 years ago.
Very true.
That's what we did, often drunk and partying. If we weren't partying and or drunk, we were at our buddy's house doing a Dynasty before they had online Dynasty, and handing the controller and doing all that whole other mess back in 05, 06, 07. How big of an impact did that game have on you, Jeff?
I mean, it still does. Like,
I still play NCAA 14.
yeah, I have 13 on my PS3 that I still play.
I'm about to say, if you have it on your PS4, that's fucking news.
Yeah.
I have it on
Give me this
I have it on my
news.
PS5, guys. It's just, I think
He hasn't given me his gamer tag. I don't know if he knew I had PlayStation, but he's never shared it, and that pisses me off more than anything.
I think on Xbox.
Oh,
Shit.
how fucking rude.
I feel like I don't have
Do you have a
gamer
PS?
tag. Yes.
I thought you both had Xbox. You told me Xbox.
No, I didn't.
This is derailed quickly.
No,
Anyways.
you know what? This is the rest of the podcast about. This is about how Jeff doesn't
You getting
listen.
shamed?
Jeff has been fucking us.
I've been replaced. I've replaced Nasta.
Joke's on you. You've been playing by yourself. With yourself is what I should have said. So big impact. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll just be super quick. Like,
No, you don't have to be.
I think the funnest. Damn. The most fun part.
Brother, I sound like an idiot on this podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Even playing it recently, like
Did you hear
it took
the
me.
geography one?
Yeah,
Did you hear us?
that was brutal. But it took me like 3 days to pick a team to play on Dynasty because I kept just practicing with different teams, and I was like, ooh, Oklahoma State, ooh, Navy, ooh, Memphis, like just the being able to play all those teams and like the different styles and things.
The option. That's the underrated
fun.
part, I think, was that like you had one, I guess when NCAA 14 came out, it was still 118 teams-ish.
Yeah.
Something like
Or maybe
that.
121, something like that. But to have any game that you have 121 options is fucking crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because in Marvel vs. Capcom, there's like a huge roster of like 70 people. So like you still don't have that many options.
To give you an idea of how ridiculous we were, I think it was the maybe 07 or 08 game. First of all, I'm a dumbass, and I would go through and I would name everybody on the game. Because
This is before. Yeah, this is before it was online sharing, but there was still where you could buy a thumb drive and have someone send it to you.
from eBay, which I also did that at once at one point when I just couldn't do it anymore. But we had a series where we took teams from each conference and matched them up against each other. Like what we drafted the teams and then we put them together in games just to see who was better at the game.
So it was a 60 game tournament because we just eventually played them. And I remember one was like Houston versus UTEP, but you'd have to get tricky because you'd play in the conference, right? And he drafts 6, I draft 6, and you could use them whenever you wanted to. So if I played him, if he played his best team, and it was Houston in whatever conference it was, Conference USA or whatever, I'd pick my worst team because I don't think I could beat him with Houston. And so it was a strategic element to it, but it was absolutely ape shit. And then when Online Dynasty became a thing, there was an incredible community called Tradition Sports Online that I got on that was sim style, realistic style of playing. You'd have 12 people in a dynasty, whether you be in the same conference or other sides of the nation, and you're recruiting against each other. You're running different styles, and it was a blast.
Even our 2-person, just me and him.
Yeah, we do 2-person online dynasties all the time.
I still have to play my game.
I'm trying to do one now, and it's been 2.5 weeks since he's played his, and it's
I'm
fucking
doing it
driving.
on a thumb drive right now.
Fucking so dumb.
I'll do that tonight.
Please do it tonight.
I'll play it tonight.
Yeah, I think it benefits everybody, and the biggest thing that it affected for me, honestly, having the real rosters, I felt more educated on college football throughout the season because you'd play a dynasty, you'd get the game out a couple weeks before the season would start, or more, maybe a month, right?
Month before.
Yeah, it'd be like July 17th or something, I think. It'd be like a weird release date. And you get the real named roster in a week or whatever, and then you're playing, and you're like, man, this West Virginia receiver is like insane.
Steve Slayton.
And then you watch,
running back.
and then you watch, and you're like, oh, that's Sills. Like that's insane. Like
Yeah.
that makes sense. And sometimes, and then the flip side of that would be like you'd watch a Maction game, and you'd see a Bowling Green quarterback who was going fucking batshit, and it's Omar Jacobs or something, and you're like, I want to play as him, and being able to go around, turn around, and play
I
as
wonder
Omar
how
Jacobs.
good he is on the game.
When I got the most recent rosters for NCAA 14 before we started our dynasty, and the first thing I did was I played as Oklahoma against Louisiana Tech or something because I wanted to see what it was like to play with Kiel and Marty, and whoever made that roster nailed it. It was awesome being able to basically sprint to one side of the field to the other within like 3 seconds and then throw an 80-yard pass because it was wild. I want the game back badly. I'd pay a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
I'd
I think
pay.
that's the consensus around the country that they haven't played with.
There's like
everybody wants it back. It's just the whole Ed O'Bannon rule.
Well, it's that sense I think has been changed so you can actually do it. Now the difference is there's not the union part, so you can't just sign a deal with the NCAA and it's good for everybody like it was before. They had to license the conferences and then the NCAA. Mm-hmm. Now you've got to go to each conference and then you've got to go to each team and then you've got to license them separately, and that's a lot of work for anybody.
And then you can't do the player likeness either.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a game coming out, I think this year, Doug Flutie's Maximum Football or something. It's going to be fully customizable, which is neat. We all know it's not going to be as good as NCAA 14. And it's got a long ways to go. The other part of Kyle's question was why he wants us to talk about why the Pac-12 is the new ACC. And so I guess let's paint what the ACC was.
Is this like pre-merger or pre-additions recently?
Maybe?
Or are we talking? I mean, if you want to go pre-editions, I mean, you can go back to like what, in 2000, 2002-ish,
even
when they added Virginia Tech and Miami.
Right. So let's just go 10 years, right? So that's Big East is still a thing.
So Syracuse and Louisville, they're
out. And you have a conference that's basically Clemson on the uptick, Florida State, and then Virginia Tech sometimes.
And Miami was down.
Miami was down at the time. But realistically...
Brad Kaya out there.
The national champion, Brad Kaya. Jesus Christ.
That wasn't that long ago. Ja'Cory Harris.
Whoa.
I played with him in one of my NCAA dynasties, and he was a lot of fun to play with. So please don't shame the name. All right, so I'm just looking at past winners, right, of the national championship. The last time, 2013, right? So it's the last BCS.
That was Jameis.
And then before that, the last time an ACC team won was Miami in 2001.
Were they ACC at the time? I think that they might have been Big East.
You might.
It may have been the first time. May have been the first year.
If not, it's 99 in Florida State. So either way.
It is. That was not a Big East team.
That was a Big
because
that was an ACC
team. That was a Big East team. That Miami team.
So it was not a Big East ACC team, or
yes.
It was an AC Big East C conference.
Yes.
I'm confused.
Yes. Miami, when they won, was still in the Big East. Because my first year at Virginia Tech was Virginia Tech's first year in the conference. And they came over at the same time.
In the Big East?
In the ACC.
But you started college in...
04. So Miami
was... Oh, that's right. I'm confusing my high school with college. Just kidding. So 2001 then, right? 2099. Sorry, 99. So 20 years. So the ACC never had a legit shot at a national championship. I don't think the Pac-12 does now or really did then either, because you had USC and that was it. Oregon made it.
USC was a legit contender at that point, but...
So they won in 03 and 04 and they lost in 05. USC. Have they come close? Yeah. Have they come close to it since? Since 05?
Not really.
Not really.
So
think of.
So they've had a 6-year. They had 6 years after the ACC capped out.
Yeah. Well, but then the Pac-12 went into Oregon being a contender.
They were, yeah, no doubt.
So they seamlessly went from one contender to another.
Where the ACC, I guess, did with Clemson, right?
Clemson at that time though wasn't.
That's what
maybe they did, but later, right? So 13, Florida State.
That was the Bowden time, right? Yeah. Tommy Bowden.
They had some players. They had like James Davis, C.J. Spiller. Those guys were there, but
R.I.P. in peace.
but I don't think that they were reaching those heights, and Florida State was in a weird state, in a really weird state at that point.
Do you think we could talk about the old ACC, that 10-year ACC, a good comparison would be that it would eat itself, right? Because I'm wondering if you could relate that to the Pac-12 now, where it eats itself, a la Washington State this year, Washington not 2 years ago, but 3 years ago, I think. I can't remember. Did they
When
make
I
it
think
2
of
years?
eating itself, I think of several good teams that are beating up on each other.
You think of cannibals.
Yes, I think of dominant.
That's like the Big Ten East is. Like you have Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State that
Yeah.
were all like.
Or what
right
everybody
next to each
wishes the
other.
SEC West was, but
Yeah.
instead it's just
Or
Alabama eating
Alabama
everybody.
coming-
Or like the late 2000 Big 12, when you had
Yeah.
Texas Tech with Michael Crabtree.
Yep.
You had Oklahoma was good. You had Texas still banging with Colt McCoy.
Or you could even honestly do the late aughts.
Oklahoma State was good at that
The
point.
late aughts SEC East too, when it was Florida, Mark Richt at Georgia, Tennessee's still there.
Doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Steve Spurrier at South Carolina, maybe that's when he started in the late
yeah.
aughts.
Yep.
That's what I think of when I think of eating itself.
Yeah.
I feel like the ACC was beating itself up, but they were in that weird tier, like that. They were a tier below the top conference.
They always felt like the fifth power
Yeah,
out of those five, right? Like in the Big East was the one
the
that's
6.
on the upright, and the one that in 07-08 was 5 and kicked those ACC down.
Yeah, because of the
From-
West Virginia's Rutgers,
Rice.
the Ray Rices, the
Rutgers, Louisville,
UConn.
USF, UConn,
Yeah.
all those teams.
Yeah,
So I don't even remember what the question was.
but why is the ACC like?
Okay, so and the Pac-12 is right now definitely the worst of the 5, right?
Yeah.
We can all agree on it.
I agree.
I think if I had to give a reason, it's probably because they have a series for a long time, a series of coaches that can't recruit their own backyard ever. And and when they added Colorado and they added Utah,
They started pulling some people from California.
right, but not enough, and not enough to be competitive in that league. So
Yeah.
Utah's good by scheme. Colorado's a fucking stock market up and down.
Yeah.
Right.
Oregon State completely falling off the map doesn't help.
No.
This is probably leading your Twitter question, but you look at just the total ineptitude of USC the last.
100%.
How many years has it even been? I mean,
It's been like 10 years.
Is dreadful.
Yeah, Helton's
Kiffin.
been awful, and it's all been coaching hires
Yeah.
because they're trying to. They were going for USC guy, right?
Yep. Yep.
God, Sark.
Was
His
there a
drinking
Coach
problem.
O in there somewhere as an interim?
He was the
time?
interim after Lane Kiffin left, wasn't
Right.
he? Is that right?
Maybe.
I think that's right.
But then crosstown UCLA.
Yeah.
Mora pandered around for what? How many years did they give him? 6, 7? He was there for a while.
And I wonder if there's like what didn't happen for Pete Carroll that's happened to the SEC, I feel like, which is the top dog losing their coaches within the conference, right? Everybody's trying to pick off the Saban tree. No one picked up the Carroll tree, really. And part of that's because he's so kooky and kind of a conspiracy theorist and a weirdo. The same way Mike Leach's tree's been pretty far removed from what it was
Yeah.
because everyone's kind of distanced themselves. There's not a team to drag everybody up by their neck, I feel like, and that's to the detriment because then
Good call.
if you know your Utah team is eventually going to get there with a 9-3 season as a Pac-12 champion because there's not a legit threat in the conference for a national title.
It just feels like every time that you get to a certain point where a team might make that jump, USC, Oregon, Stanford, Washington, they get to that point and then they fall back.
Yeah.
They can't sustain success, and because of it, it's just the conference is constantly going like this and this and this. And
Which is great for parity. Like
great for parity, but it's
it's
not great for getting your conference noticed as far as
Well, and the
having
joke's,
power.
I think the joke's going to be on everybody when Herm Edwards wins a national title this year at Arizona State.
He might win the Pac-12 South.
Well, he does play
I
to
don't
win the
doubt it.
game.
I mean, Colorado won
He
it.
does.
Who won it last year? Didn't Utah win it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, and they weren't even.
They're
like,
not that.
They shouldn't have been in the running for like the last 2 weeks, and they came out of nowhere. Or they were good, and their quarterback got injured or something.
They basically were just playing their really stingy defense they always play, and their offense was awful.
Their Samoan defense.
The Samoan 3-4.
Well, in the ACC in that time period, you did have Virginia Tech, who was probably the most consistent out of the teams, but they couldn't win the big one.
Yeah. Right, you'd lose a game somewhere that you shouldn't have lost.
Yeah.
Even in the late aughts, it was always ECU, right? Like ECU would end up.
ECU was a pain in the ass in everybody.
Dude,
for everybody.
ECU beat everybody. It was so beautiful with Skip Holtz. Skip Holtz and then Ruffin McNeil after him. As we wind down, because this episode's getting to the hour 15 mark.
There's a lot to talk about.
That's because we haven't really sat down and talked for a long time.
That's true.
And NASA's not here, so
to derail and to put his foot in his mouth.
Love you, NASA.
He's not listening. He doesn't know how to download a podcast.
he probably doesn't know what Spotify is.
No, no clue. Spotify is what he uses to get the stains off his shirt. No, just gonna Spotify here.
Terrible.
So the last question, we'll finish it up. I stole this off of a question to another college football podcast, even though we're the only college football podcast, which should be mentioned.
The only one that's ever been made.
So, the sleeping giant in football, right? So, the concept as a whole, pretty self-explanatory. Nebraska is one of those, right? Like sleeping giants, former dominant. Michigan, you could probably even classify because it's been 2 out of 20 years they beat Ohio State, and they should be better than that. Tennessee's a good one.
USC.
Yeah.
This question is, which giant is the closest to falling asleep? And I gave y'all both, I think y'all both knew the question before going in, so you had time to think about it. And I had it longer than y'all, and I'm not sure I know what my answer is because Kyle shot down like 3 of my ideas at lunch. No, we were talking the other way. You shot down on my potential sleeping giants, which was rather annoying. The closest to falling asleep, I think it's gotta be Auburn is all I can think about. And only because they don't realize how good they've got it. And you're playing second fiddle in your division to the best team in the country almost every year, right? And eventually they're going to make a move and get rid of Gus. And you're going to have an Arkansas coach, an A&M coach that are both very capable, and then the 2 Mississippi schools that are no slouches. And they're going to be right on your ass. And as soon as they slip up and they get buried by A&M and they get buried by Mississippi State and Alabama's still doing their thing, I don't know how they recover. That's a tough fucking recovery. And I could see it knocking them, the wrong coaching hire, wiping them out for 7 years, 8 years. No problem. Especially if Saban's still coaching. Because then anyone in Alabama's going to have to lose for 5 years before they ever get an ace sheen off of them. Auburn, it takes 1 year. And I think they're...
Yeah, their fans are so up and down on
Yeah,
it,
they're fucking wild. That's probably my best answer, is Auburn. I think is the closest to falling asleep. To no fault of the people that are at Auburn right now, except for the people that are running, except for the boosters and the athletic director making the wrong hire at some point.
Yeah. What do you have? Where do you want me to go?
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sorry, but a team that, they're really high right now, but I could see just like one slip up really knocking them down. Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of sustained success with Jim Harbaugh.
Is that because Jim Harbaugh's one to leave?
I think he's one to leave. I think he's also extremely volatile, and he's never made friends with the athletic department anywhere he's been. Didn't make friends in Stanford.
In insider circles, Jeff, how's Harbaugh viewed? As someone who gets the job done even though people don't like him, or is he turned over a leaf with spending the night at recruits' houses and shit?
It's interesting because he basically has carte blanche to do whatever he wants. Like, he has unlimited funds. He pays assistants $1 million. So for passing game coordinators.
That's fucking insane.
So he basically has like freedom to do what he wants. And he's won at I think he's won like 79% of his games. Like, it's a crazy high number. But he has not won a Big Ten title or beat Ohio State in 4 years. So you can already feel, like, if you go online when Michigan loses, like, the 20% of Michigan's fan base that's bananas.
Brother, I don't even follow that many Michigan fans.
But they go, Twitter's goes nuts.
It's like the MGO fucking virus.
Yeah.
Whenever they lose a game they should win.
But that's what, I don't know how much of that vocal fan base is also wealthy alumni. Because eventually they're going to get pissed at him and they'll kick him out.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Because like, it's one thing to piss off like 50,000 of your shitty fans on Twitter.
Right.
But out of that 50,000, are they collectively donating 50,000 a year?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, there's shitty fans out there. Last night, Duke beat Wake Forest by 1, and I saw somebody say, "We need to fire Coach K because this team is not well coached." The dumbest thing I've heard.
It's that kind of,
Yeah.
That is wild.
But, you won. And you're in the top 5 in the country. That's stupid. But
You've got the head of Skip Prosser. You're going to complain and fire your coach.
I got a funny story about that.
For the podcast? Cool, I'll have to cut that.
No,
It's cool. No, we're wrapping up, Kyle, and we're trying to finish.
I was at the Wake Forest game with my dad this past weekend, and they have like all these banners up there, and they have like Muggsy Bogues and Randolph Childress, and they have a banner that says Skip Prosser 2001 to 2007. My dad goes, "Kyle, why'd they ever let go of Skip Prosser?"
Oh no!
I go. Well, he died while running on campus.
It was his heart that let go of
And
him.
my dad goes, "Oh, I guess I didn't realize that."
How loud was he when he said it?
He wasn't that loud.
God, I hope like in the concourse as people are pouring in. Why did they ever let go of Skip Prosser? I just don't get why JFK isn't in the public eye anymore.
He's a pretty good coach.
So your choice would be Michigan, you think, because they're close.
That, and then maybe 2A or 1A would be Notre Dame.
That's interesting.
I don't trust Brian Kelly. I don't trust Notre Dame in general. Their fan base is nuts. Their boosters are nuts. They'll just switch on a whim. We've already seen them go through valleys. And
you know what's interesting too, though, about both those selections, Michigan and Notre Dame. After talking about the Miami fans and where they come from and where that started, I feel like for Michigan and Notre Dame, it's very much the same, right? Like the 90s weren't even, honestly, I don't even know. But like if they weren't dominated by those two teams, public eye, those two teams were some of the biggest, period. Mm-hmm. So that's why you have 50,000 yelling fans that don't go into the school, because it's not the front runner, obviously, because they haven't been in the front, but you have that. There's still new Oakland Raider fans being created that are getting soaked up into that shit.
Well, I think the other reason that I kind of consider Notre Dame to be in that group is because when you're looking at a college football playoff, they do put a lot of weight on your conference championship, things like that. It takes a year like what Notre Dame did this year for them to get into the tournament. If they lose one game, they're screwed.
So, do you think that they would be? I think it would hurt them if they joined the ACC full time or the Big Ten full time, if only because Ohio State and Clemson are going to be the people they can't decide that is bitch slapping them every year. Like Michigan doesn't have a choice; they're going to play Ohio State. So as long as Ohio State's really, really, really good, it's always going to be a thing. Notre Dame, at least, they have their historical rivals, but they can also, like, if they wanted to take a year off playing Michigan, they can.
They did for 3 years.
Point.
Now we're back.
Yeah, but that in turn is going to hurt their strength of schedule. And
except they can go somewhere else, right? Like
they
can choose to who they lose. They can choose who they lose to, or try to beat.
Yeah. I can see the merit in that, but they also don't get a conference championship game, which they do put a lot of stock in.
I think generally the only benefit to the independents I see for them is that you have. I don't know. They had a still pretty strong strength of schedule this year, like comparatively, because you're still going up against down USC,
Stanford,
Michigan.
They
played Pitt, I think.
They played Michigan State.
They played Syracuse.
Don't
They hammered Syracuse.
They did hammer Syracuse.
That was disappointing.
That was bad.
Michigan State
I'm going to delete that
rotates
episode
on.
from our podcast thing because it's the worst.
It was the worst thing that ever happened.
It was a fucking conference call. All right, the last person, the guest of the hour and 24 minutes is Jeff. Jeff, who do you think the sleeping giant, the closest to falling asleep, is?
I know it's only been a year, but I just think Willie Taggart is in over his head. And I say that as a huge fan because he's part of the Harbaugh family. So...
It's a bummer, man.
Yeah. But just watching... I think he called plays last year, and that like they were undisciplined. They were terrible. And then I don't know if you guys heard, but they had a snafu with their staff where they violated a rule, so they're only going to have 9 assistants this year.
Jesus.
Ooh. And so...
so he's going to have more responsibility.
Well, yeah, there's like a position that's missing a coach that they're going to have to assign to an off-field role. Like that just
hopefully it's not offensive line.
Well, it was wide receivers or something.
Oh, Jesus.
But that just kind of screams like, when you can't do the administrative stuff right, it's almost like, how did this dude get a Power 5 job?
And it only hurts that Florida is returning to consistency, and Miami's starting to get good again too. And Central Florida and South Florida's no slouch.
Yeah.
If I'm...
And Florida Atlantic plays a fun brand of football.
And Florida State's trying.
Was good under Butch Davis.
Yeah,
it's really... They might be one of the bottom...
Well, guys that you could feast off of, right? Like your reserve guys, your 2 and 3 stars that are like raw that you could develop. A, can Florida State develop them anymore? And B, why would you want to go to Florida State and play for a 6-6 team, or go to UCF, or go to Florida Atlantic, or go to
go out of state,
or go to Florida and wait for you?
Syracuse, Cornelius Nunn kid is a Florida kid.
Yeah, Michigan had 3 starters on defense from Florida.
Everybody recruits Florida.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just that anymore. It's everyone's coming to get your 2 and 3 stars because they know they can.
Yep, Atlanta's no longer going to be an option with fucking Georgia and Clemson. Almost said rape. Raping that state for talent.
Yeah,
South Carolina and then Clemson, same situation.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's unfortunate, but I think the well's going to dry up if Taggart doesn't like completely 180 it.
Well, the last thing is
quick.
They haven't signed a quarterback in 2 years. They took a transfer from somewhere, and they have Blackman, the guy who's 170 pounds, like.
Yes.
Well, and what's his name? Didn't he get dismissed for a second?
Francois?
He left.
But
he's gone.
Is he gone?
Yeah, they dismissed him.
But I think they came. I don't know if that's how it's gonna settle.
Well, he left.
Then the league. Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he's gone 100%.
So
that's the point.
They're going to be dreadful if Blackman gets hurt, which he probably will.
If I'm Florida State, though, which is the boosters are probably just like any other boosters, short-sighted and anxious to win.
Well, they're nuts. They were already calling for his head after last year.
This was their first non-bowl season, I think.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of supporters that it's obviously a race situation too, which is terrible. Which is fucking awful. But it's obviously like you can't deny it. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Because I do think that like no matter how he does in the next 4 years, they're a really good team.
Yeah.
Because he can put together a team. He's proven it. Like, you don't have success at Western Kentucky by accident, even if you are inheriting a good system. And then to keep it up at USF, and then to keep it up for a year at Oregon, minus Herbert getting hurt.
Yeah.
The proof's there. They just need to wait for the fucking pudding to get done, and it's not going to...
That screams of another larger problem in college football, and that's not giving coaches time.
Not college football. NFL. I mean, football, right?
Football,
like everybody. It's fucking absurd. Like, you can talk about Kingsbury getting a job in the NFL, and that's being crazy. What's crazy is that there was a job in Arizona after 1 year period.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
That should never happen.
Yeah.
I think... do y'all have anything else before I close it up?
No.
Jeff, how was your first time? Shitty.
Almost as good as my last.
Kyle wouldn't shut up either, man. As I talk over you. It's the Marty Talking Over People podcast. Guys, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, which I hope you have, again, at Sports Trebuchet, rate, review, subscribe. I do want to point out that Twitter, I've been trying to be a little bit more quiet on because I popped off on that Twitter a whole lot when I started, and I don't want it to be only show promotion stuff. So feel free to tweet at me. We can have a conversation. Everything else, I try to live tweet some of the AAF games, whatever's going on, if it's interesting. But when it gets down to the middle of baseball season, it's going to be some slim pickings. And that might be a good time for us to fill in college football wise and talk. If we have to sub in NASA, we can bring Jeff in, and then also just the Power Y team period.
Sure.
Because in an ideal world where y'all don't have children and mine just gets easier to handle, we can do a weekly podcast. But I don't think that happens.
Football season, yeah.
Definitely during football season. And if not during football season, then doing some version of it, rotating weeks, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys. Y'all be good. Say bye, Jeff.
Bye.